The purpose of this video is to assist you in linking up to a hearing here in the 7th Circuit and participate using the Zoom technology that the circuit is using. In order to start Zoom, you run the program on your computer. Now in this particular scene here, the Zoom program is already running. Whether you have a Mac or a Windows computer, this central white screen here is what you'll see once you launch the Zoom program. You simply click on the button that says Join and then type in the meeting that you're going to join into at this point. You would then click Join, and in this case it'll then ask me for a password. I'm actually going to skip this step for just a moment and show you the alternate way of getting into a meeting, which is via the email. You may have had an email that invited you to participate in a meeting. If you get an email, you can click on the link within the email. You'll notice this email also shows the password for the meeting. But I'm going to click on the link here. That then launches an internet browser window. You'll have to click the button to allow that program to run Zoom. Zoom will then commence and you will be connected to the meeting. Now in this case, you'll see that the meeting host has set up what's called a waiting room. And that's the screen that you can observe right now. While you're in the waiting room, you can go ahead and test your speaker and microphone, and this is a good chance to do this. Click on that button, and right away you can test your microphone by seeing this button right here. You can make a short recording and it'll play it back for you. You can also test your speaker by clicking on that button and hearing an audio presentation from the speaker. You can also click on the video button over here. That'll bring up a thumbnail of your video presentation, and you can check your virtual background, which we'll talk about in a few moments as well. Once you're finished with those settings, or while you're waiting to go in, you can play around with those settings. Now once the actual participant, or host, allows you into the meeting, they'll click a button on their computer and you will connect to the meeting. I'm now connected to the meeting, and there are two participants. One is my tablet computer and one is my computer right here. Once you've unmuted your video and audio, you are brought into the gallery view, as I just mentioned. You can toggle between the gallery view and the speaker view using these controls at the upper right hand side of the screen. By clicking on the button that says speaker view, it takes you to what's called the speaker view, where the speaker would be highlighted on the screen. By clicking again on gallery view, it takes you back to the multi-picture presentation. You can have up to 20 to 40 little icons on your screen of participants depending on the number in the hearing. You can in fact have multiple screens of participants at the same time. One of the things that you can do to reduce the clutter on your screen is to hide any of the participants who are not participating by video. To do this, you hover over their icon, you click on the blue button and select the Hide Non-Video Participants button. That will then hide them from the view, and it will reduce the number of icons appearing on your screen. Let's discuss some other important controls. Down at the bottom of your screen in the middle are the primary controls for the Zoom window while you're acting in a Zoom hearing. You'll see a button down here labeled Participants. When you click that button, it brings up either a floating toolbar, as it just did here, or it brings up a bar that is actually tagged over to the right side of the screen. You can change that setting on your own computer. It shows you who the participants are. If you are the host of the meeting, you can actually mute and unmute participants from this particular screen. I'm going to turn that participants bar off for right now. It is also possible to share your screen. It is also possible to record your screen, but both of those are controlled by the meeting organizer, so you'll need to ask permission in order to do those. Sharing screen is something we'll talk about in a moment when we get to evidence presentation. There are a couple of important tips for appearing in a Zoom hearing. First off, I do recommend that you consider that you are in court when you come to that hearing, and so you should dress appropriately, and you should also counsel your clients to dress appropriately as well. Secondly, be aware of your surroundings. In this particular case, it looks like I'm actually coming to you from my courtroom in Palatka. I'm not. I'm using something called a virtual background. I'm going to briefly show you how to use that virtual background. Down here in the lower left-hand side of your screen, you have several buttons. One says Stop Video, the other says Mute, which I introduced earlier. Right next to the Stop Video button is a little caret. You press on the caret and it brings up a menu that says Choose Virtual Background. Click on Choose Virtual Background and it brings up a menu bar. You can see a preview of the backgrounds that you're going to be working with here. And there are several that come with the Zoom program. You can also upload a photograph, which is what I did here of my chambers in Palatka. You can also upload, as we did here, a JPEG file that has been saved from PowerPoint. There are a number of law firms that have already produced backgrounds similar to this, and I recommend that you do produce a blank background or a nice photograph of something professional like the courthouse steps or your office, something of that nature. If you don't show anything, I'm going to reflect right now what happens when you have no virtual background. You notice right now you see my home office, and although it's a cozy place for me to operate, it's very busy. There's a lot of things in the background, a lot of distracting things, and if you're not a Gators fan, it may not be your style. So I recommend using a virtual background. I'm going to go ahead and choose the one here for my courthouse, bring that back up, and restart my video. Another tip is to make sure that you're always talking to the camera. The camera on my computer here is up at the top. Now, if I do that, I'm looking right at the person that is hearing me, just like a TV broadcaster. I recommend you practice doing that as it makes for a more professional appearance. I'm going to show you in a minute by bringing up my iPad another thing that you should be careful of, and that is the positioning of the screen. I've switched the view now to my iPad, and you can see this is a pretty poor way to present oneself in a hearing. First off, my head is clipped off at the top of the picture, I'm off center, and I'm clearly looking down at the iPad. So I'm going to reposition the iPad and show you what a difference putting it up on an elevated base can do for you. I've now repositioned my iPad up onto a printer so that the camera on the tablet is at about the same height as my face. This is a much better presentation in a hearing as I'm looking directly at the camera and therefore speaking directly to the other participants. I recommend that you take a look at your camera position before you log into the meeting. Use that little thumbnail as you're logging on and make sure that your camera presentation is as good as possible. Lighting is also very important during your Zoom hearing. It's important that you understand how your camera is displaying your face. That's why using that preview as you log into the meeting is important. Now in this particular room, I have lights both over my head and behind me because there's two windows. I also have a light that is a little bit to my right in front of me. The change in lighting is very significant. I'm going to turn off the overhead light and you're going to immediately see that the reflection in my hair has gone away. And you can actually see my face a little bit more clearly here. Now if I turn off this front light, things are going to get particularly bad. You'll see that the vision gets very dark. It's important for you to have sufficient lighting on your face, preferably in front of it, and on the face of your witnesses and your clients as they're appearing in the hearing so they can be seen very clearly and allow the participants to see each other very clearly. We've talked about your camera position and your lighting. Let's talk about the last ingredient of a good video teleconference, and that's your audio. As I said at the beginning, make sure you check your microphone settings when you come into the meeting. You also need to be aware of how your microphone for your particular machine picks up on the audio. I've had a number of hearings where folks have just been a little bit off center one way or the other, and you suddenly can't hear them anymore. In addition, when you're on this kind of a video teleconference, you need to speak clearly and slowly and enunciate your words, and you need to caution your witnesses and your clients to do the same. If you have the ability to add in an extra microphone to your computer, it may be worth the investment. I've got one here on this particular machine that does give a much better audio presentation than you would ordinarily get from the built-in microphone. There's no requirement that you do that, however. Another good option is to use a good quality headset whether it be a wireless or a wired headset. I have no objection to attorneys and witnesses appearing in court wearing a headset on this kind of video teleconference. That can be very helpful to your overall presentation. One of the last things is how your name is presented on the screen. Now on this particular screen down here in the lower left it says Judge Howard McGillen. You can change that on your screen, and you should change it by clicking on these three buttons up here, and you can click on rename and you can change your name to anything that is appropriate. Here I'm going to leave it as Judge Howard McGillen, but I think that it's important for you to list yourself by your name on the window. In a number of hearings I've had folks appear as iPhone 6 or Android or Super Dad or something along that nature. It's important that your name be appropriate and be easy to identify you as one of the participants in the hearing. So far, all the features that we've talked about with Zoom pretty much apply to any Zoom meeting you may attend. Let's talk about two that may come into particular play in hearings: breakout rooms and the presentation of evidence. A breakout room is a semi-private side conference room that can be set up in Zoom. In my division, we set up 3 different breakout rooms, one for the state, one for the defense, and one for a conference between the 2 sides. That breakout is a semi-private conferencing area where you can talk with another participant in the Zoom conference. The breakout room is not recorded, and it is private from the rest of the participants in the conference. We can put any number of participants into a breakout room. So for instance, the defense counsel can consult with their client, the state attorney can consult with witnesses or victims, and if the 2 sides need to have a consultation together, we can put them into a 3rd consultation room. It's important to understand that when you're in a breakout room, you need to click the button to both go into the breakout room and to come back from the main conference. The host does have the ability to crash all the participants out of the breakout room, but that ends all breakout room use until the host sets them up again. So when you're in a breakout room, please return as soon as possible. It is also important to remember that what goes on in the breakout room is only semi-confidential. And the reason I say that is because under the rule of confidentiality 1.6 and also under the evidence code, if there are third parties that are able to hear the conversation, then the privilege and the evidence code privilege do not apply. So it is important for the attorney to be aware of who else can hear the conversation in the private or semi-private breakout room. One of the things that will be very important for you to do in a Zoom hearing is to present documentary evidence. Now, obviously, we really can't present physical evidence in a Zoom hearing. It may be possible to do that with a camera set up, but it's just very awkward. For the most part, I think what we're going to see is folks using documentary evidence in hearings. The way you share a document is by using the share screen feature of Zoom. The way you activate share screen is to click on share screen. Once you've done that, you can actually select the individual window. You'll notice that there are several windows available to me here. I can share my entire desktop. I can also share just that email that I showed you earlier. Or alternatively here, what I'm going to do is actually share this PDF document. I'll click on the PDF document and then click share. Now, it is important for you to observe on my desktop several important features. First off, you'll notice that the Zoom window has gone to a minimized view over here in the upper right-hand corner. That's important because you can still see who is participating in the meeting. In the center here, you'll notice that this PDF document, which happens to be the best practices for remote appearance technology that was put out by our Supreme Court, is circled in a green border on my screen. Now, I see the green border on my screen, and over here on my tablet, I can tell you that the only thing that is being seen by any participant are, once again, the thumbnail sketches of the participants' faces, but also this particular document. So this is a way to display a document to all the participants in a hearing and to actually publish it to them. Now, while you are screen sharing, you also have the capability of annotating a document. Annotation is very important because that's a way of focusing a witness's attention to a particular part of the document. I'm going to click on the annotate button and it brings up a sub menu. The thing that is most functional to me is the spotlight button. You click on the spotlight button and it brings up two things, this kind of magic wand looking icon and an arrow icon. The magic wand simply goes and it puts this little red starburst so you can use that to focus somebody's attention, for instance, as I'm doing here, circling the word best. Another alternative is you can click on the arrow icon. The arrow icon then goes on the page, and wherever you click it, it puts an arrow with the name of the person that has clicked right next to that particular spot. That can be very useful as well. When you're finished displaying all these icons, you can clear them off the screen by clearing all drawings. When you're finished sharing a document, you simply click the button that says Stop Share. And Zoom resumes back to a full screen, or in this case, a window view on your main desktop. We've gone over quite a few things during this video. Since the beginning of the video, we've talked about how to get into the Zoom application, how to use the gallery and speaker views, how to declutter your screen from non-video participants. We've talked about the Zoom controls that are at the bottom of the screen. We've talked about the virtual background use and how to select a good one. We've talked about speaking to the camera and the lighting in the room and checking your microphone and your equipment to make sure you're presenting yourself the best possible way in your hearing. We've also talked about how to introduce evidence in a Zoom hearing, how to share your screen to introduce that evidence, and also how to use breakout rooms. I can tell you that we hope that these are helpful to you in preparation for hearings here in the Seventh Circuit. We all look forward to seeing you back in court very soon, either on Zoom or more preferably live. Thank you very much for paying attention. I hope this has been helpful to you.